I want to share with you today something that I heard once that I think is very good advice. Look at your life as though it was a business and you are the CEO. Success for this business is a life where you are happy and you're thriving. So the question is, are you doing the right things to ensure this? A CEO recognizes that there are some things that you have to do. There's some things that could be an opportunity for growth and success, that some opportunities you have to say no to, and there's some things you simply need to divest of. This is one of several exercises and perspectives that I'd really like to share with you in a new slow living strategies series. I used to think that I couldn't slow down, that my life was just too full. But I found out that that simply wasn't true. And I really wish that I had understood this many years earlier. So it's my hope that in sharing some of the strategies that have helped me to slow down and to find a healthier and more fulfilling life, that I'll also encourage you to create a healthier and more fulfilling version of your own life as well. So, years ago, I used to burn the candle at both ends all the time. No matter how much I hurried to try to get everything done, I could never cross everything off my daily to-do list. I felt like I never had time to do anything fun anymore, and it really did feel like there was no way out of this overwhelm. Eventually, I got to the point where I realized that my health was suffering, my relationships were suffering. I just wanted to find more time to do some of the things that I really like to do, like starting plants from seeds in the spring, or baking sourdough bread, or just simply relaxing and reading a good book. So, in this series, I'm going to share with you some of the strategies that I found most helpful to me in finding more time for these kind of things. So, if you're not already subscribed and you would like to slow down too, you can follow along with me in this series to hopefully get some good ideas for yourself and some inspiration. In today's video, I'm actually going to walk you through a little exercise that I did recently to help me just to ensure that I'm using my time for what matters most to me. So this short little exercise can be a real eye opener, especially if it's been a while since you took a really good hard look at where you're spending your time. So if you'd like to do this with me, go ahead and pause this video now so that you can grab piece of paper or a journal and a pen, get whatever you need, and then turn the video back on when you're ready. So here's what we're going to do. Begin by making 4 quadrants on your paper. Draw a line through the middle of the paper, both vertically and horizontally. And at the top of the first quadrant, you can write absolutely must do. For the second, write maintenance. The third, growth, success, and happiness. And the last one, little value. Now let's think about all the things you do on a regular basis, like your morning routine, maybe brushing your teeth and washing your face, things like this. They would go in your maintenance quadrant. Or maybe, as an example, you might be tempted to put your morning cup of coffee in the maintenance quadrant as well. But since you technically don't need the cup of coffee, even though your body might be telling you otherwise, you may want to put it in another quadrant. So, for example, if you've been trying to give up caffeine and you're really trying to cut down on the coffee, maybe you put it in the little value quadrant. On the other hand, if your morning cup of coffee is something that just really makes your day and you have no intention on giving it up, then this might be something that you would want to put in the happiness column. So it really just makes sense as to how you think about each thing that you're doing and how it feels to you. So you want to put things in the quadrant based on your own personal thoughts and feelings about it. One of the things that I do each morning is to drink a cup of hot water with a little lemon in it. For me, I think about this as being something that I do for maintenance, as it helps to hydrate me first thing in the morning and get my digestive process kicked off, if you will. On the other hand, I put something like meals in the absolutely must do quadrant, as even though you can go for a period of time without eating, eventually you're going to need to feed your body. Another thing I do in the morning is write in my journal. And while this activity is something that I primarily do for growth and success, is it really gives me a lot of insights and helps me to organize my mind. But at the same time, it also provides me a little bit of happiness as well. So at this point, you may want to pause the video and really just think through your days, bucketing all your regular activities in the place that makes sense to you. And then when you come back, we are going to take this a step further. So if you want, go ahead and pause the video now, and then you can turn it back on when you're ready to complete the next step. So let's start this next part of the exercise in the quadrant for things that you absolutely must do. So here you can consider, are you the person that absolutely must do this? Are there anything in you that you've listed there that maybe could be done by, say, your child with a little coaching and instruction? Or perhaps it makes sense that your spouse could do this, or perhaps maybe this is something that you would feel good about paying someone else to help you with. On my list, I realized that one of the things that I have in this quadrant is my accounting and taxes. Even though I could pay someone else to do it, I really struggle at this point in time to justify that additional expense and relinquish control over that, because I know it's something that I can do. So maybe one of these days I'll be able to shift that one into another bucket, or pay someone else to do it. You can ask yourself the same questions in the maintenance quadrant as well. You could also ask yourself for these: what would happen if you didn't do what you have listed there? And you may find that sometimes that would be okay. Or maybe you could do it less often. With respect to maintenance, every CEO knows that it's important to maintain your equipment. They also realize that it costs money as well as time to maintain things. It has to happen in the intervals that make the most sense. And so that's why it's good for you to think too, for each activity that you've written down, are you doing these things in a time frame that makes sense for you? Some things really do make sense to happen and be done every day, but is it possible that things that you're doing every day could be stretched out and done a day or two longer in between them? House cleaning chores, maybe like vacuuming and mopping the floors, that I have stretched out the time between. And then another example for me is I used to wash my hair every day. I have like really fine, thin hair. And so my experience was that if I didn't wash it every day, it would get greasy, like the very next day. And I didn't realize the reason that was happening was because I was washing it so often. I was really stripping my hair of its natural oils. And it took a little bit of an adjustment to actually, work my way through that and let it be that way for a few days. But now I'm able to wash it every 4 to 5 days, if not longer. And it doesn't have that greasiness in between. But what it has done is save me a ton of time. So I try to be really open-minded when I look at what I've listed in that quadrant, because sometimes it's really easy to think that you have to do something within a certain time frame if that's the way you've always done it. But that's not necessarily the case sometimes. So it may take pushing yourself a little just to make sure that what you're doing now and how often you're doing it truly does make sense. When you start to consider the things that you've listed in your little to no value quadrant, what would happen if you stopped doing these completely? Or at a minimum, doing them a whole lot less. One of the things I wrote down is lately I have noticed that I've been scrolling at the news in my phone a lot of times when I'm like in between activities, because I realize I really stretch out that time in between other things that I'm doing for that quick check of the news. And ultimately, those minutes really do add up. I'd be a whole lot better off if I would get up and do a quick stretch or maybe walk outside and get a breath of fresh air for a few minutes. So for me, I decided to try to limit my news update to just a few minutes in the evening, which is probably also a lot better for my mental health as well. I also realized that there are still some things that I could unsubscribe to in my email list that would help me reduce my email maintenance time, particularly with respect to I still have some things in there that are purely marketing related and they don't provide any value in the form of ideas for me to consider. So the goal of this whole exercise is to streamline and optimize the time in your life business. So if you whittle down these 3 quadrants to what is truly essential for you to do, and hopefully in the process of doing that, you can free up more time for activities that you have listed in your growth, success, and happiness quadrant. My page actually looks much different today than it would have 2 years ago. And I know this because I really started choosing what I do each day with a whole lot greater intention. These days, I allow myself time to do things like this little exercise that we're doing today so that I can be really thoughtful about where I'm spending my time. And in the process, I do things a little bit differently. Honestly, the result has been that I spend more time doing the things that I enjoy, and I take much better care of my health than I used to. I'm a heck of a lot more relaxed when I'm spending time with family and friends. And I also know that my work time is more focused on what matters as well. So I really hope that you have enjoyed this first video of this new series. Thank you for being here. Thanks for watching. And let me know in the comments if you have found this useful. And if you have, what your biggest takeaway is. And also, if you found it useful, perhaps you might know of someone else that might also get benefit from it, and you could forward that to them as well. So, again, thanks for being here and go out and create an amazing rest of your day.